Oh, lunch. Okay, I am nervous. And I know that because I feel it in my stomach. That is my somatic experience. And I also know, as all facilitators do, somebody said time is the enemy, time is always against us. And I was like, no, time is always with us. It's clicking down. But nevertheless, I'm going to spend some time getting us into our bodies and shaking off lunch. Can everyone just stand up with me and can we just stretch for a second? Like that'd just be, you're just doing this for me. Just stretch. Oh yeah, this is good. Okay, has anybody ever done the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with their bodies? So, oh yeah, raise your hand if you've never done it before. Or are you just stretching? I can't tell. Okay, so you're just going to go with me. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll count down, and when we get down to 1, we'll just jump around and shout. Okay, so it will go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1. Ah! All right, cool. All right. Great. You can sit down now. Make a lot of noise. Get it out of your body. Thank you so much. This is so exciting. It's nice to be with my tribe. This is really, really cool. My heart is racing. I'll just say this, my first degree is in physics. And my second, yeah, I know, physicists in the room, what up? My second degree is in industrial design. And my parents were weird existentialists. So to me, I always wanted to know why something worked. And I think with facilitation, we're always really hungry for patterns and tools and models so that we can make it work, right? You can just turn the key and let it run. And the question that I've been asking myself a lot lately is why? Why do these things that we do work? What is behind it? And for me, it actually started 3 years ago. I did some work in Australia with an organization called Second Road, and they called their facilitation practice conversation design. And when I first heard that, I was like, wow, that sounds really douchey. That was my first response. I was like, first of all, you're not designers, I'm a designer. And even though I know we teach industrial design, we say everyone's a designer, we all know what we really mean, right? It's like, right? Come on, I'm the designer, I get to say what happens, right? But so it gave me this question of if we are designing conversations, and I say we are all conversation designers every day. We're designing conversations with our mom and our husbands and our wives in meetings, big conversations and small conversations. We try to squeeze them and mush them and stretch them out and slow them down. And the question is what are we designing? What is the material? In industrial design, it is very clear what the material is, right? With conversations, it is much, much less clear what the material of design is. And that's why I have the podcast, mainly for me to just explore this question of what the fuck are we doing? Why the fuck does it work? Pardon my French. I'm a New Yorker, that's what we do, right? Yeah, it is. So one of the elements of conversations that we talked about a lot of them already, space and place, interfaces. Conversations happen in a place. This conversation is happening in the air. It's also happening there. She's creating an interface for the conversation. The conversation is also happening in Austin. In the Japanese conception of space and place, we are in Austin and Austin is in us, right? If we did this someplace else, it would be different, right? Another element, and just I can't talk about it all, I wish I could, because I want to make time for an activity with you all, so download the Conversation OS Canvas if you like. One of the most important components of conversations is narrative. So this is a very common colloquial phrase we use where we lose the thread, or can we tease that out, or can we weave that together? Narrative threading is actually an inherent component of conversations, and the way that we design that is with narrative, right? We can design the narrative. I was going to do this because my conversation operating system has a deference. I'm going to help Kevin with his exercise. One of the things on that spectrum is I'm a writer, right? I would rather get things out of the head and onto papers, but I want to try Priya's thing, which is getting people to be in the space by voicing for themselves, by standing up and saying, this is me, this is who I am. So you teed that up perfectly for me, Douglas. Who here has a model of facilitation that they use when they're designing a workshop every time? Stand up. Okay, who has, of those people who are standing up, who has more than one that they use. If you just have one, you can sit down. If you've got like two, you're like, this is what I sketch with. Three. Okay, four.
What's a model?
Well, yeah, fair, we can talk about that. You're like, Terrence is like, I got millions, motherfucker. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. So narrative plays in facilitation. I mean, narrative is embedded into this question before, during, and after. Right? Time is one way to structure a narrative. Design thinking is my pathway into this. When I first started designing workshops, I was just using design thinking, and design thinking is an amazing plug-and-play model. Design thinking also imbues objects with stories. This is one of the things I learned when I got out of graduate school and I just started designing things. You're like, this thing came from this process. The process is in the thing, and now I can tell the story of what it is, but I can also tell the story of what we're going to do. This is hilarious, as always. I'm sure if you just do this visual search, right? Like, I just posted this to LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and it's amazing. People love the cacophony of pictures. But having a picture helps you know what you're going to do, right? It's a visual image of our plan, right? And that's what John was talking about. It's what a lot of us talk about. Design thinking is this totemic structure, as I just said, like it imbues the object with its qualities. And I think narrative in our facilitation work can do that too. Design sprints, for example, help explain why we're here and where we're going. We're here to do a design sprint. You can ask for it by name. People know what to expect. They know why they're coming, and they know what they're going to get out of it. That's a very, very powerful story. There you go. Here's a picture of that model. There are at least two roles for narrative, implicit versus explicit. So think about narrative that is just for you, right? A narrative model that just you use versus a narrative model that you expose to the group so that they can get bought into it. Design sprints, I think, are actually both implicit and explicit. It helps you plan, and it also helps you get people bought into the story. You can also use it versus pre, versus during, or post. So planning and thinking versus buy-in, right? Very simple. But this is where I started getting into this more fun aspect of narrative models. I think there's at least three flavors of narrative: linear, cyclical, and structural. And I think they serve different purposes. And I'll give you an example of each one of those because I can see you looking pensively at them. Linear models of stories. Any Double Diamond fans in the room? Woohoo! Who's bored of the Double Diamond? Also true. But guess what? It works really well if you want to plan a 4-hour workshop. Discover, define, develop, deliver, right? Loosely determined, the Double Diamond actually really can be a very powerful metaphor for designing a number of different types of workshops. Thanks for the nod, I appreciate that. But you can also have cyclical narratives. So the Austin people, they were just talking about do and learn. And interestingly enough, do came first, not learning. Like they put it, we're reading left to right. There's actually an implicit structure even in their cyclical narrative. Measure, learn, build. You can also have a structural narrative, like the business model canvas. Business model canvas junkies in the room? Yeah, you can run a whole multi-day workshop off the business model canvas, and it doesn't have to be linear. Right? You can that is the container. Yeah, you can spiral inward. You start from the edges and then go into the center. Yeah, or some people like to start in the middle with the value prop and then radiate outwards, right? You can use name brand threads, right? You know where I got these Gucci's from, right? Freytag's pyramid, using the story arc, right? The exposition, the rising action, the falling action. A good workshop should follow this narrative arc, but maybe this is something that you want to use implicitly. Maybe you don't necessarily want to expose that to your clients, that you are manipulating them into a peak experience, a climactic experience. Maybe that ruins it. A lightning decision jam, right? Here's the beginning, the middle, and the end. We go from the problem to the solution to the action. Rose Thorn Bud fans? I use this all the time. With my fiance, I use this as a coaching model. It's a thread, it's a story that shows that I'm going to incorporate these three important types of ideas in my conversation, in my experience. I think the thing that's important about these models is that they limit, I'll flip it around. What's not in your model is something you don't think about. I know there's two double negatives in there. Bear with me. So, for example, the hero's journey, going from the known to the unknown through the abyss. I first sort of saw the application of this through Dave Gray's work, thinking about this as a day-long workshop where it is our job to take people into the abyss, to go into the darkness, and then pull them out again on the other side. Knowing that the abyss is coming is actually a comforting idea. I know that it's going to be there, and it's our job to hold that space and to move through it. Open, explore, and close. Right? This is how I sketch out like 99.9% of my workshop experiences is as a series of openings, explorings, and closings inside of a bigger open, explore, and close. This one, most of you probably haven't seen. I interviewed a lovely, lovely person, Kate Warfort, who uses the 4 seasons model to design every class she teaches inside of her School for the Arts in New York City, every single week, every month, every semester, and she thinks about it as a narrative for her life as well. Winter, spring, summer, and fall. Resting the soil, planting the seed, tending the crops, and celebrating the harvest. And I can't tell you how many times I go to workshops where at least 2 of these seasons are missing. And I know which ones you know of. We're not just planting and tending. Let's celebrate, and then let's chill out a little bit. Let's give people a moment to relax. The 5 E's of experience design: entice, enter, engage, exit, and extend. Designing a workshop as an experience. I am 3 minutes away from the end, and so we have just enough time for you to try trying out a new narrative thread. So I want you to grab a sticky note and a Sharpie and think about a workshop you have coming up. Sketch, pair, share. We're going to do like 1 minute and 1 minute of sharing. We'll have no time for questions. Because how could you have any questions at all anyway? These are my 5 favorite narrative threads. And I'd like you to just take a moment and chill out with yourself. It's cool. Pick one of these models that you haven't used to sketch out a workshop before. And take a moment and think about these as ideation prompts. What do these invite into the experience that you maybe haven't thought of before? So I'll just, with our 30 seconds, I'd actually, rather than pairing you up, if anybody would like to say, what was it like to even be provoked to sketch in a new narrative framework? Anybody at all?
Invigorating.
Invigorating. Thank you. Maybe we'll do one-word answers. I like that.
Inspiring.
Inspiring. Cool. What else?
Uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for saying that. Illuminating. Which one did you? Oh, he did the hero's journey, by the way. Of course, it was intimidating. The pit of despair. Yeah. Other experiences? Yes.
Actually, to hook it to something I already, things that I already knew.
Yes.
Like, how does this relate to the way I do things, and how can I, so it's up at the interpretive level.
Yes.
As opposed to using it.
Yeah, you can try to nest them, The 4 seasons is a series of openings, explorings, and closings, for sure.
But that's not helpful to use this as a stimulus if I'm trying to do something new.
I forgive you. It's fine. I think it's, yeah, you're welcome. It's good to see where the overlap is, to see what does mine allow and what does this one allow, and maybe there's something in the middle.
And how can I maybe use this not only for my design, but in collaboration with somebody else?
Yeah, so this is just one thing else I want to say, because I know I'm out of time. When I coach facilitators and they show me their agendas and they say, what do you think? Will this work? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Do you think it'll work? Because if you think it'll work, you can definitely make it work. But I can't tell from this list of things that you want to do. A narrative arc helps you bring someone else into it. I saw some nods in the back. You're like, oh, I see what you're going for. Here's the opening, here's the exploring, and here's the closing. I don't actually think that lands the plane. Here's another way you might try to land it. I don't buy into your opening. Here's another way to open it, right? I don't think you're giving enough time for exploration. Let's add something else in there and create that space a little bit bigger. And so that, to me, is the other power of narrative, is getting help and buy-in from other facilitators. And that's an exercise we do in the afternoon in the full-day master class, which there's still some seats for, so you should come out and play. We're out of time, right? We're super out of time. That's it. Okay, bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Narrative.